Let's see.
Okay.
We have you now. Okay, we have you. So you're hearing me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly.
Right, and we're seeing you too. Okay, great. I'm going to put my hands together. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
All right, and thank you for coming on the program.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your international experience as a national footballer in various places. Tell me where you have played, what clubs you've played, what countries you've played to, so people understand the scope of your experience and your contribution to football.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me this morning. I have had an international career for the best part of 17 years. I have played from obviously the youth level in Trinidad and Tobago, played for the Connection locally for one season. And then I went to the UK to play for Southampton, for Sunderland, for Sheffield Wednesday, AFC Bournemouth, Cardiff City, Stoke City. I also went to Atlanta United for 1 year, coming down to the end of my career, and I also did a 6-month stint in the Middle East, in the UAE, at Al Jazeera Football Club. And I've also represented the senior men's national team for the best part of 14 years. So I've had quite an extensive playing career, an international career, of course, playing in many countries and various teams. So it is an experience that I value greatly.
Well, I think it would be a modest claim to make that you are one of the excellent top national players for Trinidad and Tobago, and you are a gifted international player for many clubs around the world, well sought by these clubs, and you have acquitted yourself well. You've made Trinidad and Tobago proud, and of course it's your own personal pride of achievement. This has been good for you.
I do appreciate that. It is not something I honestly took a look at until I retired. And, looking back at my career, I was definitely blessed. I have to give thanks to God for that. To be able to leave this small island and be able to represent not only my family, but also my country for a number of years, which is not something very easily done.
Tell me a little bit, go back to your youth in your mind for a little bit. Here you are playing football at home, probably for your school, and eventually you get into, trying to play in a club in Trinidad and Tobago. What is it that kind of drove your ambition to make you an international player? What it is that conspired inside and outside to give you that drive?
Well, firstly, a lot of people don't know this about me, but
we're not hearing.
Well, firstly, a lot of people didn't know this about me, but I was a good athlete. Being a sprinter and was my first love. And playing football and cricket and everything else, because that's all we had to do. It came naturally to me. Being able to represent my country at the Under-17 World Cup in 2001 was something that was, my first experience. It was amazing. And I think from then on, the drive to continue a legacy, a family legacy, that is, because my uncle used to play for the strike squad. He was part of the strike squad in 1989. My father also used to play football locally here in Trinidad and Tobago for Defence Force. So at the point that I played in that Under-17 World Cup in 2001, the drive to continue that legacy or to further that legacy was the main thing for me. And then, coming out of school, being a national champion a number of times, after that, my career, or the interest in an international career professionally, started taking a very meteoric height. And from that, and going out there and seeing the facilities, and of course all the international players, I think that as well added to my drive to succeed as a footballer. Knowing that it is not something that is easily had. Again, coming from Trinidad and Tobago, 1.4 million people, and going over into that wider spectrum of people, and not only people, to countries that the sport is their be all and end all. I think it was an amazing feat to be able to secure a contract and have such a long career.
And to triumph in that way. Tell me something. Where did you grow up, Kenwyne? What community did you grow up in?
People a debate about this, but I was born in Point Fortin.
Good.
Most of my formative years, I grew up in La Brea. Most of my family are Southerners. And then I moved from La Brea to El Socorro for 1 year. It was a transition period. And then after that, I think from the age of 7 or 8, I fully moved to Edinburgh 500 Chaguanas, where I spent, most of my youth and teenage years up until I was 18 years old. And then I left. So I'm sort of, in the wider sense, from Trinidad and Tobago. I've experienced many communities, and they have all contributed to the molding of the character that I'm today.
Okay, and you served in the military too. You served in the army, right?
That the military was my father. I was about to go into the military, but I had quite a few options in trying to attain a contract outside of Trinidad and Tobago, so I skipped the military.
All right, okay. So your good athletic skills and talent got you into football, and your talent as well, your skills developed over years, made you an international player. Tell me a little bit about you keep referring to 1.4 million people, a small country and so on. And you said that in 2001 you had your first international experience at the age of 17. Tell me what that did to your consciousness and to the triggering of your ambition.
Well, I think people disregard the multicultural society that we have here in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think we appreciate it very much because, going back those number of years, I don't think the world has been such an integrative place. And, most of my molding came here. I've had East Indian friends, African friends, Chinese friends due to my school environment. So I grew up not knowing, the borderlines of race relations. We tend to say in Trinidad and Tobago, we look at, being one country, and which is something that I took to heart because I grew up knowing that. Being able now to traverse the earth, and go to different countries, trying to gain that contract, I think I blended in seamlessly in a lot of these cultures because I didn't really see a face or have to think about any systematic racism because I was young, so I was not knowledgeable of the things that going on in other countries and such. And it was just on the basis of my talent and personality when I got to these places, being able to fit in. So, it wasn't major stumbling block at the beginning. A young man going out into the world, it has a lot of things that you don't see and you get to find out later on. But just on the premise of my talent, being able to go out there and show what I have and stand up next to the players that they would have had in their country who they've molded, from a very young age, is something that gave me a lot of confidence and gave me the determination, the belief to continue trying until I actually prevailed.
I want to take away two things from what you've said, which is that the multicultural nature of the society here, your schooling and your exposure to people of different ethnic backgrounds, etc., kind of prepared you for the world in a way that made you comfortable with anyone or everybody. And then secondly, when you went out into the world, as you dealt with people from that kind of stance, you only saw what was happening there in terms of the platform that it was creating for you for positive achievement in your own life, and I imagine somewhere in the back of your mind on behalf of your country as well.
Yes, it definitely did. To be honest with you, I think racism or race relations is learned behavior.
Yes.
Being able to go out into that platform, not having that bias, yes. Not thinking of anything else as a young person because of the culture that we've grown up in, it kind of was a blessing and a curse at the same time. Okay. At the beginning of my career, it was very easy to go in and to be likable and to blend in with the different cultures, because I think it is more prevalent in those areas to think about race and to think about where someone comes from. Sport, yes, is the vehicle that tends to, rise above, or so they say, rise above the race relations and such. But it was only, I think very early when I got over to the UK, I started learning about the existence of racist or racist behavior. And then I experienced it, further down in my career as well. It's not something that was hidden. So the belief that sport is lacking or is remiss of racism is a total farce. And as we can see today, the heightened awareness of people's actions towards different races and backgrounds, is at the forefront of the news now. But in my early days, we didn't have social media, yes. So I guess it wasn't really highlighted that much.
Okay, so you had a good and easy experience initially, based on your growing up in Trinidad and Tobago and the way you saw the world, and later on, as you proceeded, you begin to understand, hey, there is race here, there is some racism, there are racist actions, and there is racist thinking alive, notwithstanding the fact that we are involved in sport. Tell me some of that experience. Tell me some of the things that sort of stand out in your mind.
Well,
and don't be afraid. We have honest talk here, and we are big men. We'll talk about it. Okay? It's important to know.
Well, my first experience, actually, I had just turned 19 years old. Being at Southampton for a few months, I got the opportunity to go on loan to Stoke City, my second loan period. And I can remember the second game I played for Stoke City. We played against Millwall. So I had a lot of teammates, a lot of black teammates that had different roots in different Caribbean islands, and some of those were from Britain as well, along with some white teammates, and they all, tried to warn me about what we were going to face against Millwall. But again, being the blue-eyed, naive young man that I am,
Didn't believe.
because it's not something that I ever experienced. So I was kind of curious to see what would happen. And turning up at the stadium there in Millwall, from the time we stepped off the bus, they had their fans, giving us the monkey chants and saying, go back to where you come from, and that type of thing. And, I found it strange. I was like, why? What is the reason for this type of behavior? And what more interesting fact is that Millwall, the team itself, had some black players as well. And their own fans were making these gestures towards them. And they were playing for that club. In the end, we went on to beat Millwall 1-0. I scored the winning goal. But it was so amazing to me that, the team, even though they had this behavior, why would they do it to their own players? And in hindsight, it was really scary. I was a young man, but I had some seasoned veterans around me who would have protected me at that time, because this is a new experience. And seeing that, blatantly, you have people, leaning over the banisters and the steps, doing their monkey chants and cursing at you and telling you to go back where you come from. I would be very honest. I had, in between all of it, I had a bit of a laugh, because I was like, this has to be some sort of, ancient, ignorant behavior, to see that in 2004, 2005, people are doing this. I couldn't really understand it.
Okay, you had later on. You had any? I'll give you a chance to talk about one more experience. You had any other experiences like that which kind of affected you?
Yes, later on, I had a very eye-opening experience. The type of character I am, any team that I play with, any dressing room, any locker room that I'm in, I look at the team and the players as my family.
Sure.
I've never had a bad rapport with anyone. I've always been a good teammate, and sort of been the person that would make, the dressing room have an equilibrium, a level one at that. And, through my career leading up to this moment that I'm going to explain, I've had racism from different players, playing against different players on teams. I've also had the systematic racisms with managers, myself. But because of my work permit situation, I had to bide my time. I couldn't lash out, because that could have meant, the end of my opportunity of having a professional career out there. But in 2013 or 2012, I would say, I was at Stoke City, and we had a bunch of teammates that were playing pranks on each other. I was in the middle of the group in terms of seating arrangement in the locker room. And, they were playing pranks, cutting each other's laces, throwing people's clothes in the toilets, emptying out all your locker. It was a funny time. We had a player that was leaving the egg and flour, mixture of egg and flour, and they put it on his car after he just washed it, as a leaving present. But for that time, I wasn't involved in the pranking, but of course, when you see that type of stuff, it takes you back to school days between your friends and, your family, your brothers, sisters, cousins, that type of thing. And one day, I think someone had defecated in the toilet and threw someone else shoes in the toilet at the same time. So I think it took the pranking up to another level. So the day after, we went out to training, and most of the people went back in after training early on. I stayed out to do some extra trainings with a couple members of my team. And by the time that I went in to the locker room, everyone became silent. When I looked to where my locker was, it was broken open. Now, my locker was a combination lock. So you would have had to forcibly open it to get inside. So when I, started walking towards my locker, a friend I had from the US, he whispered to me, Kenwyne, I can't believe what happened here. I was like, what? So when I looked into my locker, I stood some distance and I looked into it because I didn't know what they put in it. And again, I'm a person that I can take a joke. But when I looked closely into my locker, there was this pig's head with my clothes wrapped around it. Now, the pig head was huge. It wasn't a small pig. It wasn't a piglet. It was a full-grown pig's head, and my clothes wrapped around it. But to do something like that, it gives a different meaning. Now, I didn't mind. They played a prank on me, and I left my locker open. They caught me slipping. You play a joke, you take it on the chin, and you move on. But to break open my locker now and, put something that symbolizes, I think, a lot of different things in this modern world, I was taken aback. So I had to ask the question, who was that? Because to me, that was a joke that was on another level.
Yeah, that was malevolence.
No one answered. No one answered at all. So I went outside because I was really mad. I went outside to the maintenance shed where they had all the machinery to maintain the fields. And in all honesty, I was looking for a sledgehammer. I didn't find a sledgehammer, fortunately, and I found those paving bricks that they had, and I dusted it off nicely, and I came back whistling into the dressing room. So as soon as I entered the dressing room, I asked the question again, who did that? And one of the pranksters, passed by me and said it was such and such. I don't want to call the player's name, but it is well documented. And when he told me that, I was like, okay. And I walked out to the car park where he had his brand new car, and I smashed the window. Came back in. He didn't know because I think they were about hiding around the place. I threw away my clothes and I went home in the training kit that I had on. Later on in the evening, the manager, the head coach of the team called me, and all he wanted to know was that, if I didn't have any problem with religion and the pig head. I was like, well, I am not a person that eats pork, so, it is not something that I take kindly to. But he rushed on the phone and was like, all right. That's all I wanted to know. Nobody from the club called me, no hierarchy from the club. Nobody called me to ask me how I was feeling. And the club had a game away to Southampton last day of the season. And I told the manager I'm not coming because I felt betrayed. I didn't feel like I could trust my teammates anymore. And while they were down there, another friend I had, another teammate, called me from down there while they were having a sort of a warm-up session, and told me, the manager and players, they having a laugh about the situation. So I was like, well, definitely, I know now that no one cares. This is not a matter of them looking after a human being. It's all fun and jokes, and this is coming from the head coach of the team, and it's filtering down to the players. So saying that, the season came and ended, and during the summertime, I was away with Trinidad and Tobago on international duty. And the only call that I got from the club was from the secretary of the club to tell me that, I was fined 2 weeks' wages. Also, I have to pay, obviously, for the repair of the teammate of mine's cars. And so I went down to asking him some questions. So who are the people that actually did it? They didn't want to reveal that to me. And they said that 2 of the players who were involved were on suspended fines and punishment. Okay. So I said, how can someone break into my locker and do this to me and they are on suspended punishment? Am I the only one getting punished? They had no answer for me, and that was all the communication I had from the club in the end.
All right. So did you stay with that club afterwards?
Well, I stayed with the club
until you could get out.
Sorry?
You stayed with the club until you could get out.
Yes, well, I tried to. I had to create, a modern day action where I refused to go into play a game so I could even have a conversation with the owners of the club and the board, because no one wanted to have a conversation to actually, bring closure to the matter.
All right. Kenwyne, we're going to have to wind up now because we come into news time. But I just want to ask you this. I was hoping to play some clips, but I don't think we'll have the time. In the match between England and Italy, all right, I had some colleagues here from universities in the UK system in which they said that before the build-up to the match, it was all beautiful. They were talking about the unity of the team, the diversity of the team, etc. And then when the match happened, and of course you had that situation in which the players who were basically black players and the team did not score their penalties. What happened was that there was a kind of uproar on social media and the racism came up. Does that surprise you? What does it tell you? Let me hear what the man said.
The past few years, we've had campaigns in other countries where players are stopping playing matches, walking off the field and such because of racism. And England tried to hold themselves up as a white knight. But England is one of the countries that it happens the most. I've experienced it over my career. I experience it up to today, even though I'm retired. So I expected no different for the players that missed the penalty and then they turn on them. When you do good, we're all England, we're all one country. When you do badly, it then turns to, well, they're black players and then they're not from here, their parents are from, whatever background they come from, whatever country they have roots in. So it is not something that surprised me. It's not something that I expected to all of a sudden turn on its head. The country to me is very hypocritical when it comes to that. And I think they need to do more. The authorities need to do more, but they wouldn't, because then that would mean they would suffer some sort of economic downfall if they do something.
Okay. I just want to close on this very quick, just a 1 second response. Are you happy now to be in Trinidad doing what you're doing and to be living in this very diverse society that you knew? And do you see now a value that perhaps you didn't see before?
Of course, I've always had the value. I didn't recognize something new. From the beginning of my career, I knew that once I was finished playing, I was coming back to Trinidad and Tobago. It's my country, it's the country that I love, and I will die right here.
That is a good note on which to end. I want to say that you and I are on the same page when it comes to that. This is my place. I love the place, and I just would like to make it better, as I'm sure that you will too. I want to thank you, Kenwyne. This was such an honest and sincere conversation. I want to commend you for what you said and the personal experiences that you shared with us. And I'm sure listeners are moved by your experience. Viewers are moved by your experience. So thank you very much. We'll have you maybe another time to talk about some other things. I wanted to ask you about the state of Trinidad and Tobago football, but I won't go into that now. That is a whole other story.
Of course it is.
But we move on now to Chanel and the news. Thank you so much for watching Brighter Morning with Bhoe. It has been a pleasure with very, very beautiful guests here this morning, sharing their experiences and their knowledge, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be discussing the Venezuelan immigrant situation in the country, and we will have a discussion about that. Okay, over now to Chanel and the news.